Hi creators, and welcome. Today we are talking about something that can make or break your podcast. What is podcast editing and why is it so important? When you record a podcast, what you capture is called raw audio. Raw audio is natural and unfiltered, but it is rarely ready for listeners. You might have background noise from a fan or street traffic. There might be long pauses while you gather your thoughts. You may stumble over words or speak at different volumes. All of this is normal, but if you publish it as is, listeners might lose focus or stop listening altogether. Podcast editing is the process of turning that raw recording into a polished, final product. It is about removing distractions so that your content is clear, engaging, and professional. A well-edited podcast makes the experience smooth for your listeners and helps your message stand out. Here are the main elements of podcast editing. Removing the stakes and silences. Listeners prefer a steady flow. Editing cuts out parts that feel slow or unnecessary. Cleaning up background noise. Tools can reduce static, hums, and other sounds that distract from your voice. Balancing audio levels. Your voice should sound consistent from start to finish, even if you moved closer or further from the microphone while recording. Adding music and effects. Intro and outro music, sound transitions, or even small effects can set the tone and create a branded style for your show. Pacing the conversation. Good editing makes sure the episode feels natural. It keeps the energy up without sounding rushed. Preparing for publishing. Editing often includes exporting your audio in the correct file format and bitrate so it meets platform standards. Why does all this matter? Research shows that audio quality is one of the top reasons people stop listening to a podcast. You could have incredible ideas, but if your audience hears static, sudden volume jumps, or too many awkward pauses, they will likely switch to another show. Editing is not just polishing, it is protecting the listener experience. For beginners, the good news is you do not need expensive tools to start. Free software like Audacity or GarageBand lets you cut, clean, and export basic episodes. As you grow, platforms like Adobe Audition or Hindenburg give you more control, with features like multi-track editing, advanced noise reduction, and professional mixing options. And remember, editing does not mean changing your voice or making you sound fake. The goal is to make sure your personality shines through without distractions. A great edit feels invisible to the listener. Of course, editing can be time-consuming, especially if you are trying to stay consistent with weekly or even daily episodes. That is why many podcasters eventually hand it over to professionals. At B-Mans Media, we handle both editing and uploading so you can stay focused on creating your content and building your audience. We polish your audio, remove the distractions, and deliver episodes that are ready for the world to hear. The key takeaway is this: podcast editing is not just about fixing errors. It is about creating an experience that keeps listeners engaged, builds trust, and makes your show stand out in a crowded space. Now that you know what podcast editing is and why it matters, get ready for our next video where we cover podcast monetization and the ways creators earn from their shows. See you there.